welcome to the Destiny 2 GrinPressions, where we talk about the beta, our hopes, ambitions, and what we hated about it. Hopefully it won't be too negative. So I'm your host, Owen, and with me I'm joined by Nikholaichan and TNEkarma. I still have no idea how to pronounce your username.
I usually just go by Karma.
Well, assuming it doesn't bite us in the butt, let's hope.
That's the easier option, I guess.
So, I think what we should start with is basically how we were with Destiny 1 and what we liked about that and what were we hoping for with D2.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to start off?
Yeah.
All right. I was just saying I'll go first. I've just started playing through Destiny 1 again, so quite happy. Got it fresh in the brain, as it were. So thing I'll point out straight away is hashtag Titan for life. I played all of Destiny 1 all 3 years as a Titan. I was Striker until we got the Sunbreaker class, because Flaming Hammers are amazing. You Void Walkers, get out of here. The first thing I did when in the beta, for Destiny 2 beta, because I actually got to go and play it at an event in London, which was really awesome. But essentially, the first thing I did was try the Sentinel, and my first impressions of it was that it was awful. But after playing more time with the Sentinel, I've kind of come to like it. But I'm also really feeling the Warlock class, so I'm not too sure what I'm going to do there. But anyway, we can discuss classes later. Generally, Destiny 1, loved it. There just wasn't enough of it. There needed to be more story, more loot, more epic moments. And the beta for Destiny 2 has made me think that we are going to get that. Everything they've talked about after the beta as well, so the lost sectors, the adventures, all that sort of exploration and discovery thing makes me really excited. PvP was a little bit of a nightmare in the beta, but I've never really played PvP properly. It's only ever been for quests, so I'm not too sure about that one. But the strike and the story mission, solid, and I'm really excited for Destiny 2, but I'll pass over to you two now.
I was a Warlock in Destiny 1. I had 3 Warlocks, all 400. I started in year 1 on Xbox, year 2 on PS4. I'm more of a PvP player. In Destiny 1, ever since Trials of Osiris was revealed, and I got into Trials, played it every week. I've been flawless 30 times, 32 times, something like that. I'm more of a PvP player. I enjoyed Destiny 2's PvE, but I was more excited to play Countdown because it's the first time we've got plant the bomb, defend the bomb type of game mode, so it's more like CSGO, Call of Duty. I think it works better than Trials, because in Trials it was more either kill your opponent or wait for the capture. You didn't really have much choice there. It was either kill or wait for capture, so it provides more opportunities. I think that's about it for me. Sorry.
Alright. Yeah, I mean, I started off on PS4 for about the first year and a half or two, and started off just going, Void Walker the entire way through, pretty much. Stormcaller hit with Taken King, went straight into that. That felt, I don't know. I enjoyed Stormcaller though. It felt a bit too slow sometimes for the super, but then once Prize Find hit, I went onto the Xbox for it mainly, and I pretty much just completed every single raid as much as I could. So I kind of went ham during that period. But in terms of what I enjoyed with D1, it was mainly the PvE side, although for some reason I'm getting very good with the PvP. I'm not too sure if that's because I've gotten better with shooting people in the head, or I've just learned to be sweaty with my abilities. But yeah, I mean, I've already wrote an article about D2 and how I'm got concerns with it, so I'll probably just open up into that a bit later on. But I think for the beta as a whole, it was good to see that it still felt like Destiny, but at the same time it didn't really showcase what Destiny 2 was going to be, because even though the starting campaign, and I'm sure you guys enjoyed it as well, but it just felt a bit lackluster. I mean, compared to the first Destiny 1 campaign, it's a hell of a lot better, but it kind of felt a bit empty in some regards. It felt like, you know what the player's going to do from point A to point B and everything in between that, but there isn't a sense of, it doesn't feel like the level itself was designed to propel you forward as much as, say, this is a corridor, you're now walking through it, as opposed to, I'm going down this way because the enemy's there. But I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on it?
See, the thing I found with the opening mission, I do have my one complaint, and I generally, I hate this with most games, is when they give you everything and they take it away. I appreciate that it's to give you a sense of what you're going to get to, like Assassin's Creed, it's really cool at the start, but it generally annoys me. But the thing that kind of bugs me is I quite like the lore in Destiny, but we start with new classes and then that's taken away. But it's kind of like, is that just for the beta or is that for the story? But the thing with the opening mission is, I kind of get where you're getting at. Well, as epic as it was, was, it did come across very much as we're just going to play on like your memories and your emotional attachment and just put you from bit to bit. But there were several moments where you were kind of caged in and there's like an invisible wall, and I didn't like that as much. I'm hoping that the campaign will keep epicness within it. It depends how they decide to do it. If there's going to be a lot of like stop and start, then that's going to be quite frustrating.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you guys, but I feel like most of the set pieces were kind of spoiled for us from E3. Like, if you had watched playthrough, you already knew what you were expecting. Like, you already knew what you were going to go and do, and it kind of ruined it for me. I wish I wouldn't have watched E3, and if I would have gone into it fresh without knowing what we were doing in that mission, I think it would have been a bit better. The secrets about the exotics, like collecting the exotics in the mission, that was good. I really enjoyed getting the exotics from completing the story mission. I feel like it shouldn't have been a requirement to do the story. I'm not really one for Destiny's story. Kind of ruined it. Well, not ruined it. I just don't really enjoy Destiny's story. I enjoy the lore. The set pieces, missions, they're not fun to me. I prefer endgame like raids and strikes and PvP.
I think that's pretty important to touch upon, is that they haven't spoken in anything about the exotics. I mean, we got given an exotic gun. What was the solar hand cannon? I don't know now.
See, the thing that got to me a bit was, like, I saw a lot of people complaining that there was hardly any content in the beta, and obviously they've been going on about how Destiny 2 is going to be a lot bigger than Destiny, and I'm sure it will be. But it's kind of weird, because obviously the problem we had with the Destiny 1 beta was they pretty much gave us access to half the game, half the launch content. And obviously Destiny 2, they've given us, like, a tiny little bit, but it still felt like it wasn't enough.
What was it? We got to explore a bit of Nessus, but I kind of felt like, hold on, so are you telling me that you specifically built this drill for the strike, or are we going to be able to explore this area post-strike? Because I know, because with Cephix Prime, for instance, probably the most infamous one with the bloody tank, but you got to explore that entire area, just minus the actual boss room.
See, yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I mean, yeah, there was definitely a lot of strikes in Destiny 1 where there were areas you didn't get to explore outside of the strike. So I'm hoping that they still have that. I mean, having some sort of strike-specific areas, I don't mind too much. Like, for example, the bit where you're jumping through all the cannons and the jumping all the platforms to get to the drill. If that's not explorable, but there's another route to get to the drill, that would be kind of cool. But on the flip side, the first thing me and my friends did when we did the strike was we ran the other direction, and we found plenty of places where there was clearly a bit of geometry just placed to block you off for continuing exploring. It stood out, it saw fun. And the bits you could explore was huge. Like, the area to the right at the start of the strike was bigger than most of the maps in the Cosmodrome. So it was kind of like, ooh, there's quite a lot here to explore outside of the strike.
Yeah. How many Fallen did you kill or get killed by out of curiosity?
Quite a few. I also managed to clip out the map. That was fun.
That was honestly a nice surprise seeing the Fallen there, because A, it's Fallen, and B, they look gnarly.
They got spears now and everything. It's awesome.
I hate the captains. They just teleport right in your face. I preferred them when they were running away.
See, I find it, like, because the Cabal have always been, like, one of my favorite races because they are militarized. They are ready for a fight. So the fact that we got, the Red Legion is essentially, like, the best of the best when it comes to the Cabal. I just love that they are constantly pushing at you. They're not, they're not hiding, because the Fallen sort of dodge a lot. The Vex just walk, and the Hive, you just punch your way through them. But I like that, the Red Legion, that they're like, no, we're just going to come at you. We're going to charge you with flaming machetes, and the fact that they've got a weak spot on their back as well, so it encourages you to be more mobile with your approach to the situations, which is kind of a nice thing.
It's kind of ironic, though, if you think about it. Oh yeah, we want you to be very mobile. Why can't we Titan skate or jump around them then, completely like what we did in D1?
Speaking of like jumping around them, it just reminds me to sort of sidetrack quickly. I love the fact that you've got the new subclass abilities, and I love that the Hunter, dodges and reloads their gun. But I love the fact that, the Titan, I'm going to drop a shield and, it's going to defend us for a little bit. And the Warlock's like, I'm going to heal us or buff our damage. They're both supporting roles. And then the Hunter's just like, I'm just going to dodge and reload my gun.
Did you get a chance to play around with the, Arc Strider?
Yeah, that's awesome, but kind of tricky.
Yeah. So just a quick aside, during the strike, there's a section where you just jump down into a canyon and there's a Vex gate wall that you have to clear through all the Vex ads. And you can pretty much solo that entire section using your punches and dodges constantly. Because the second class ability for the hunter makes it so that if you dodge near an enemy, it instantly recharges your melee. And every time you kill something with your melee, it increases your melee damage before it starts your health regen, and you can basically just steamroll the entire Vex horde by punching them, as long as the Minotaur's not there to knock you off.
That's kind of badass, to be fair. If I may I know we don't really have a format for this, but may I just have my rant about these subclasses?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I was going to bring into that in a bit anyway.
Again, got first impressions with the classes at this event, and then got home, played a lot more, and got hands on. Now, I'm annoyed they've taken away the Taken King classes because I think they're still some of the best classes, but that's fine. They've kind of merged them into these new ones. I like what they've done in terms of like bringing the Defender into the Sentinel and things like that, and for the other two classes as well. But here's my issue. They've basically taken the Sunbringer and gone, we're going to give Flaming Hammers to the Warlock because Flaming Swords are badass. So it's like, okay, cool. Warlock has a nice two classes. There's a nice difference between them. Cool. Hunter, yeah, we're just going to basically make Blade Dancer even cooler. Titan, Captain America? Like, it's really frustrating because I want to love all the new classes, but I can't because I feel like the approach they've had to Destiny 2 is just we're gonna make the Warlock kind of the most balanced, cool round, yeah, there's a lot of mobility, a lot of damage, cool class. The Hunters just continue to be the most ridiculous but awesome. But they've kind of like nerfed the Titan almost because although the Dawn of War, Dawn of War, whichever way it said, the bubble.
Ward of Dawn.
That's the one. Like, the Defender class was pointless. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people play Defender. I didn't like Defender just because I felt it didn't do anything. But the bubble has its tactical uses. Great. But the thing I don't get is, as a Sentinel, and as a Striker, I can put a wall down. It's not as effective as the bubble, but it's a wall. And if I hold the super buttons, I do the bubble. But that's all my super gone. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it might have just been the beta, but it took forever to charge your super.
I felt like it took I was barely getting any supers like in any game. I struggled to get a super. Yeah, it was just like in Destiny 1, you sort of get your super. Well, I got my super like once every 3 rounds of elimination. And in Destiny 2, it was like I was getting it on like the 5th or 4th round. It's like it takes a lot longer now.
But again, that could have just been the beta because obviously the gear was all very basic gear. But it concerns me a bit because if it's going to take us longer to get our supers, I want the supers to feel more badass. But the Sentinel, and I am just picking on the Sentinel kind of. The Sentinel just feels really underwhelming, and the Arcstrider feels very OP. Like, it doesn't feel like things are kind of balanced anymore. Not that they ever were, but...
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. I mean, I think with the Fists of Havoc, I mean, I would much prefer there being one super Fist of Havoc that you just wipe everything out of existence. I don't know, I mean, I know beforehand you wouldn't exactly be able to one-shot a Phalanx. That's the guy with the shield that you couldn't destroy beforehand. But you couldn't exactly one-shot them sometimes with your Fist of Havoc, but then it feels like the same, but you've just been given more. It feels like you need to be given more for it to be fully effective, not just 3 big whacks and you're done. I think maybe 5, or at least maybe increase the time you have with it.
Yeah, because the other thing as well is because obviously we had some of the abilities and the subclasses locked. I might be mistaken on this one, but like when I play Striker, I'm into Destiny 1. I have the big shockwave, so even if it's in PvP and I just quickly jump, like I'm gonna at least get the first person and maybe get some damage on the second and the third. But in Destiny 2, like I liked that you pop the super, you've got the shoulder and charge in there, like that's cool, but yeah, you just didn't like. I say things don't feel balanced. What I mean by that isn't from like a gameplay point of view, because obviously PvP, etc., etc. Like what I mean is that the level of appeal for each of them and the feel of them just doesn't feel good. Because in the first game, like all 3, like the Nova Bomb, Gunslinger, the Striker, like they all felt equally kind of like badass and awesome. But now it just feels like the coolness has shifted, if that makes sense.
I mean, what could you have done though with let's break down the subclasses. What would a Titan really be able to do, if you think about it? I mean, Arc Titan would by default, well, Arc is energy, so I guess you hit things harder, but then how do you make a Fist of Havoc feel more badass without it being overwhelming to the point that, I mean, what, the Warlock, the Voidwalker, that's a very weird way they've gone about making it feel better, but at the same time still feel balanced. I mean, I will always just prefer Lance and Shatter over over what was it? The one where it just sucks people in and does damage over time.
Vortex.
That's the one, Vortex. I mean, I've never been a fan of Vortex just because why would I want to be doing dot when I could just deal big damage in one fell swoop? I mean, what do you guys think? What could the Arc Titan be instead?
I kind of feel like they could have just brought back Fist of Havoc. The new Striker's okay, but it doesn't have the feel. In Destiny 1, when you strike someone, you know you strike someone. You feel like it makes you feel so good when you strike 3 people and they all go down. But in Destiny 2, it was just so underwhelming. It was just unbelievably underwhelming. I hated Striker in Destiny 2, to be honest.
The other thing as well is like I appreciate that they got rid of the Taken King classes, so it's like okay, they were cool. I think the problem with the Titan as well is that the Flaming Hammer was the pinnacle of like I am a Titan, I've got a freaking hammer, and I'm just gonna crush your skull. Taking that away, it's like okay, I want something as cool as that, and the Striker doesn't feel as powerful anymore. And to then go, you've got a shield. It's like I get it. I'm a Titan. I'm a tank, but it doesn't compare to the hammer. Whereas, like with Warlock, where they've gone, okay, we're going to take away your Phoenix ability, but we're going to give you a sword. It's like, whoa,
With the Warlock, they've kind of screwed us. Self-res was kind of the only redeeming factor we had as a Warlock. Self-res was the thing I boasted about. I was like, oh yeah, you die, but you can't self-res. But now they've just taken that away, and it's like, it's left a void in my heart.
Yeah, I understand that feeling as well because it was basically an insurance policy for the people that sucked at Destiny, myself included. I'm not going to lay claim that I'm incredible, even though I've done some of the raids. I mean, with the Dawnblade, it's a case of they just made it so that instead of you throwing your grenades, you can fly and you just swing your sword. And I'm surprised it doesn't do melee damage, or it doesn't have like close quarters act. So you got like 3 damage. So you got melee damage, you got the explosion damage, and you got the direct hit damage. I'm interested to see what the second subclass tree is like. I mean, it's more acrobatic, if I remember correctly. It's very much you're in the sky and what is it? Justice reigns from above? I can't remember now. Overwatch. Insert Overwatch meme for reference.
See, it's quite interesting though because I can't remember if it was Destiny 1 or Destiny 2, but there is a Warlock ability where if you double tap circle, you like a blink. Oh, no, it is Destiny 2.
Yeah, that's like Twilight Garrison for Destiny 1.
That felt good. I think it's tricky because like if you break down the classes, you've got the different pillars of damage, tankiness, mobility, and it just feels like although they've kind of twisted everything around on the classes and been like, okay, here's a bit of mobility, here's this and there's that, but again, in the simplest terms, it feels that they've just buffed the Hunter ridiculously. They've made the Warlock sort of a bit of a guinea pig, and then the Titan, they've just taken things away. But I'm curious to see, as you said, the Secretary, see how that plays out. But I'm curious if there is going to be a third class. For all we know, the game could come out, and those new subclasses won't be in the first mission. It could just be experience what you'll get later in the game.
But I think that's probably going to be the way it's done. Like, in the beta, it was sort of, you get your own character, you start off, like, late game, maybe. Like, if the max level is 20, you sort of start late game in beta. But I feel like in the main game, when it releases in September, it's probably going to be like a sort of a late game thing.
It's tricky to tell. Again, some people got drops in the beta at light level 201. It also, to me, it just seems weird that after being free, after being at level 40 with light 400, that they would then go back down to level 20 and light level 200. It doesn't really make much sense in my mind. It's like I get it's a fresh start, and they're probably trying to mimic that year 1 feel, but it's like, I'd rather have a level level 40, level 400. Heck, give me level 500 light and level 50, you know?
Sorry, I'm still thinking about what new version of this, of how it would be, because I'm just still thinking, why don't you just make it so that the Titan moves bloody fast, shoulder charges everything, and just call it like Wrath of Havoc, and then make it so every time you kill something with a basic shoulder charge, you create like an explosion effect, the enemy turns into arc energy, and you regenerate your health, and make it so that it's basically a pain train.
That sounds awesome.
Bungie, hire me.
That would be sick.
I know you said you didn't enjoy the Sentinel Titan, but for me, I thought this is why I like playing the Sentinel Titan. Defender Titan in D1, because I just love doing it in PvP where you've got your super, they're about to take the heavy, you drop down on top of them, and you've got armor of light. So they're punching you, and you just pummel them in 2 hits whilst they're just pleading for death.
See, I think that's probably what got me about the Sentinel. Is it's nice that the bubble's there, but there was none of the upgrades to make it so that you got a big buff or people coming in took some sort of nerf. Like, it's just bubble, and it kind of bugged me that it took all of your super. Like, I don't know. There's just something about it that's just playing the Sentinel. I kind of keep going from loving it to hating it because it's so situational, that bubble. But again, that wall, like, because the only time I would ever put the bubble down is if I'm the last Guardian standing and I need to res someone. But I've got a wall now.
Yeah, it kind of replaces a bubble. I'm not really going to use bubble when I've got a wall that I can place down. I can just use my shield.
Yeah, because the thing is as well, is like, in a pinch, it's like, okay, I'm going to pop my wall down, but rather than use all of my super to make the bubble, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my super, throw the shield, which is like half my super energy. I'll pop the shield up to take the remaining damage whilst I'm resing someone. But then again, if you play as the striker, because of the new subclasses abilities, it's like, well, I can be a striker and still put my wall down.
I kind of fell in love with the Defender Titan very late. Well, since December time, I've only been getting really addicted with Defender Titan, and that's just because of the bubble, Ward of Dawn, Armor of Light, and makes it so that if somebody tries to challenge me inside the bubble, they're going to have a difficult ass time if they don't have 4 horsemen or something that would just melt my health instantly. But I mean, with D2, I can definitely see why you wouldn't want to use a Sentinel, but for me, it's a case of, well, you've got a very well-rounded, if not very close range, abilities to make it so that you dominate in a certain sort of field. So with the strike against, what is it, Protheon, when he's charging about and shooting you, you can hold down a 4 and generate lots of orbs of light, whilst your 2 fellow teammates are right behind you and still shooting and damaging it. And I think with the second, I really wanted to play with the second archetype for the Sentinel Titan, and that's because I think it was like called In the Trenches.
Did he disconnect?
I was just about to ask that.
There we go. Slight technical issue there. I somehow disconnected because internet failed. How much did you catch of what I was saying earlier with the Sentinel Titan?
Kind of just the beginning, but...
Oh, okay. I'll just have to summarize it. Basically, Sentinel Titan is very much a close range, can protect your guys whilst keeping up the offensive without being put too much harm, and can generate a lot of orbs of light. And I'm looking forward to accessing the second archetype for the Sentinel Titan, just because that one's going to have I think it had double shield, bro, and also it was generally just more getting into the enemy face and clobbering them like Captain America gung-ho style.
See, that does sound slightly more promising. I mean, considering that you do get that second shield throw, I mean, that'd be kind of cool.
I'm just trying to remember if it also gave you extra benefits. I'm not too sure because I can't. Damn, I really should have taken a screenshot of the archetypes, but I'm pretty sure if you shot through the shield when it's raised up, it also empowered your shots, I think it was. I can't remember if that was an actual thing.
See, you saying that has just reminded me my biggest issue with the bubble, and that is, it's great because no one can, but you can't bloody shoot out of it. It kind of irritates me. Like, I know it's like OP as anything to be like, I'm in a bubble and I can shoot you, but you can't shoot me. But at least in PvE, I would hope that you could, because the amount of times like people have just killed themselves inside a bubble because they fired a rocket launcher.
That's reminded me of, what was it, Atheon? No, not Atheon. What was it? The giant Hydra mini boss.
Templar?
Templar, that's the one. Every time he imprisons you, so many people have died because they fired their rocket. No, I get what you're saying with that, but at the same time, because they've made it so that you get armor of light by default, you can now rocket yourself at point blank and still survive and take a group of people out.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. I don't know. Since playing the beta for Destiny 2, I'm kind of having like an identity crisis with like who my guardian is going to be, because again, like on my second, because I'm running through Destiny again on the second time, but I'm playing as a warlock this time, and I'm really enjoying that. So I'm kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because from a roleplay point of view, we lose our powers at the start of Destiny 2, so my character can become a warlock or a titan. It's fine, but from an enjoyment point of view, I have no idea who I'm going to play.
I never really role played with it because I kind of just went, Age of Triumph is dropping. I'm just gonna get all the characters, get them to max level, max out one of their subclasses, and then call it quits. I mean, I don't know. I mean, probably I'm not too heavily invested in what it means to be a guardian per se. I'm more interested in, I want to know about Cade Six and his background and why on earth does he always have playing cards?
It's a tricky. It's weird because like there are opportunities for them to explore so much in terms of story, and I'm hoping they will because they left so much on cliffhangers over the 3 years. But I'm hoping like at the end of the day, as long as we get more story and world building in Destiny 2, like I'm quite content with that because that's pretty much what I want. And I want to know what happened to the Queen because my beautiful Queen. I need to know that she's alright.
Well, we know she's alive. She's just MIA. I mean, what was it? I mean, I pointed out in the article, which again, I probably don't recommend reading it just because it's a very jaded article. I'm fully aware of that, but it felt because what was it? I think Luke Smith did an article with PC Gamer, I think it was, and he basically summarized Mara Sov as a cosplay character for people. I'm like, really? That's kind of downplaying her importance in the universe of Destiny. Like, she's the queen of the Awoken, the very people that saved humanity at what was it, Twilight Gap or the Battle of Six Fronts? Because she stopped a fallen house from joining into the fray that would have toppled the city down. And then she issued bounties, took down the House of Wolves, which was arguably the best expansion. I mean, I know we got extra subclasses with Taken King, but the Vestian Dynasty, that sidearm was king for me for the majority of it.
See, replaying through it all now is actually quite interesting because, again, I've played for all 3 years and I've got one friend who's only played the first year and another friend who hasn't played any of Destiny. So going through it, it's kind of interesting because the Dark Below is now kind of boring because the way they restructured it with the new quest line system is kind of just like, oh, that's that. House of Wolves is still quite cool, but I kind of miss just roaming around and suddenly a pack of wolves just being like, hey, we're just gonna blow things up now.
I miss hunting down the treasure chest. That was the other thing I missed. Because once you took down the wolf with the bloody shot cannon, solar cannon, and void cannon, it was like, holy crap, these guys mean business. And you've got the taken incursions that appear, but it's like, okay, so I go around, kill a bunch of stuff, which spawns in a massive area to the point that you struggle to find a lieutenant sometimes, and then you've got the actual Taken bandit or the Taken mini boss, and he doesn't do much. They don't move. They just stay stationary and just pummel you with their giant orbs of darkness or multiple mini orbs of darkness that track you, and you don't exactly get a chance to push it back per se. You don't get a feeling of, right, I'm a Defender Titan, I'm going to put down a Ward of Dawn, and I'm going to have another Guardian right next to me and fully unload into it right in their face. I mean, you could do that with the House of Wolves. I know the captains were slightly bigger than usual, but you still could get a sense of Thor versus Hulk in Marvel, but you felt like you could just go, I'm going to toe to toe with you. Whereas with the Taken Incursions, it's like, you just stamp on me and I'm dead. What am I supposed to do? Have you actually had a chance to try and 1v1 them? Because it's almost impossible sometimes, depending on where they spawn.
I've had instances with the Taken where, yeah, it's like, oh, the Dark Zealot is here, and it's like, right, where are they? And they've literally spawned on top of me, and I'm just dead straight off the bat.
What about you, Carla? Have you tried to 1v1 them? Because they're...
I didn't really I didn't really do patrols. I sort of found them boring. Like in year one, you had to do patrols to get materials, but in year two, you didn't really have to do patrol. I just I think the only time I spent much time in patrol was for in year three it was for the Fawn bounty, and in year two it was for the Dark Drinker, and that's literally the only time I've spent in patrol in 2 years.
Yeah, I'm not exactly going to lay claim that patrols were the greatest addition to Destiny, because it was basically just the most melodramatic part of Destiny concentrated into, oh yeah, this map is actually very barren. I mean, if you compare Destiny's map design compared to an open world game, you can vastly see a difference. I mean, one comparison I brought up with a friend who thought it was a bit ridiculous was Fallout, because it was a case of you knew, oh, I'm in this specific part of the map. If I go slightly to the east, I've got this, but right in front of me, there's always something to do. Even if the encounter rates weren't as high as Destiny, you always knew, oh, I'm in a town area. I know if I just explore around the place, I'll find a few goodie bags here and there, and I might run into some weird thing. I'm just going to go, ooh, oh god, please don't kill me with radiation. I mean, did you guys have that sense of feeling, or am I kind of alone in that?
No, I think Destiny definitely had a sense of emptiness, and I do agree with you. Like it in an open world game, you want to be able to, like, no matter where you are, you want to be able to see something, even if it's in the distance. You want to be able to spin the camera around and be like, "Ooh, what's that?" and go over there. Destiny, I'm so sick of the Cosmodome.
I don't blame you there. I think I'm more sick of Venus in that regard. I remember spending the majority of my time in D2, year two, sorry, not D2, in year two, where it was a case of I'd always go around the area where I don't even know where to describe where it is on the map just because it's so annoying to get to, but it's basically the best place where it's just Vex spawn all the time. Can't remember where though, because that's actually the one thing I really enjoy about Destiny. Because you spend a bit of in the actual patrol, you'd start to learn, oh, this is how you get from one place of the map to the other without actually having the map. So now that we've got the whole fast travel section of it, I'm kind of going, oh, does that mean I don't have to explore it as much? I mean, that is the one problem with most open worlds, is the fact that you don't ever want to go over that on foot. You just want to, I'm just going to teleport, I can't be bothered. Don't fully explore it. Whereas in Destiny, it was a case of you knew if you went right, yeah, when you spawn into the Cosmodrome, you know if you went right, you would go into a courtyard where the spider tag would sometimes drop in, and there'd be a massive area where you could easily cycle round, and you'd kill a bunch of Fallen in one area, go onto the other, kill a bunch of Hive, and then if you go right from there, you can actually go and kill a potential major Fallen for increased chances of loot. Whereas if you go left, you've got massive open advantage, you can go into the rocket yard, and then beyond the rocket yard, there's the actual satellite area. And during the satellite area, there's a bunch of really weak ads, but if you go slightly higher, there's actually a place where you can kill 2 Fallen captains, which is great for when you get the sniper from the, gunsmith, which goes, oh, kill Fallen captains with this weapon.
Yeah, I agree with you that. Like, we're gonna have to wait until Destiny 2 comes out, but I'm I'm excited for Destiny 2. Like, talking about lost sectors, the quests, the like they're talking about putting in live events, so like stuff that's only gonna appear on like a certain weekend. Like, I'm really looking forward to Destiny 2 and like just new content. I'm just bored of Destiny 1.
See, I think we won't be able to really judge that until we get into Destiny 2 and we get to go around that open world, because I'm hoping it's going to be full of landmarks and awesome bits that'll make us go, "Ooh, what's that?" But yeah, you do have a very valid point.
Speaking about content, I don't think they've spoken too much in terms of, oh, how you're going to get exotics, but I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm kind of concerned that, well, are they making it easy to the point that you might as well not bother with exotics and it kind of just comes to you? Or do we have to do like this one quest that's just going to make us go, oh my god, I hate this, but when you get it, you kind of go, I'm so glad I have this weapon because it's genuinely useful.
I'm hoping that it's going to be like Destiny 1, like for the quest of Touch of Malice, Necrochasm, No Time to Explain. I'm hoping there's some of those quests in there, but I'm also hoping that it's kind of like Year 1, where it's just a random chance. I'm kind of hoping like that, because Free of Coins in Year 2, when they introduced Free of Coins, it kind of ruined it. It was way too easy to get exotics, and it kind of ruined... It made the game go a lot faster than it should have done.
See, what I'd like to see is then make it so like because my biggest problem with Destiny and most like loot-based games is like you go through these epic moments, but you all end up with the same loot. But like I don't really mind too much in Destiny 1, but I'm hoping with Destiny 2 that you do have to do some sort of like trial by fire to get these things or something cool to get them. But what would be nice is if they bring back like Zool or someone and it's like, hey, you can buy an exotic. What I kind of like is if it's like, hey, you can buy the exotic, but it's got no power. You need to now go and do a quest to actually empower this exotic. So like he just sells you a dud one almost.
That'd be rather interesting concept because they had a very brief look in terms of what they're going to give us for gear. And we know that it's going to be weapon mods, as well as weapon skins. Same for the armor. They're going to have their own unique properties in that regard. So it would be interesting to see how they go about the upgrading system because in house I think it was Taken King, that's when you could start infusing items, but the infusion rate was horrid back then. It was like 50%.
Yeah, it wasn't a direct scale. It was like I think it was like the average or something. I don't even remember how they did it.
Yeah, and then when Rise of Iron hit, that's when they made it as a 1-for-1, which is pretty nice. But then I think early game, I mean, I don't know, they could easily balance this how they want, but I feel like for early game, it should be a struggle to get. It's almost like a level curve. It's a case of early on, it's really tough. But once you get the good loot, it's a lot easier to get the good loot time and time again, to the point that you kind of go, oh yeah, I've got a fully decked out arsenal of guns that I know, okay, this is what I use for X in X situation, as opposed to Y situation, which is why I have this weapon.
Well, it's interesting as well because they've already said that weapons won't have randomized rolls. They're all going to be static in terms of what stats they have, therefore making the balancing for PvP easier. But what that means is when you find, I'm just going to use the last word as an example. When you find the last word, it's going to be, that's it. How they've already said like they're thinking of ways of how to make, your 5th or 10th or 20th last word interesting. Like what benefit is there to getting duplicates? Because whenever you get a duplicate at the minute, it's like, okay, cool, let me compare them because there's going to be slight differences. Oh, this one's ever so slightly better for the build I'm currently running.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a bit of time trying to get the perfect, like quote unquote perfect Imigo loop, which was basically just having it so that every time you killed something, it gained, I think it was increased grenade energy, incendiary rounds, or no, not incendiary, explosive rounds, rangefinder. I can't remember now. No, I think it was spray and play, and that was the one hand cannon I wanted because I had multiple hand cannons, whereas a case of, it had spray and play and explosive rounds, but it didn't have the right perk for the increased energy. It was like, what was it? I think it was, whilst critically wounded, killed with this weapon, have a chance to proc your health regen. Great, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted something for more offensive, so I think the static is a good implementation, but like you said, why should I bother getting like my 5th last word, to use your example, when the first last word is going to be the same?
Yeah, there was I can't remember what it's called, but in the beta, wasn't there something that was like it wasn't active during the beta, but there's like links to it being a sort of like most of the perks on the gun are the same, but then at the very end it's like you can change like a certain perk, and it's like sort of be like rangefinder, Icarus, like sort of those perks as like a major perk that is random, but you have to do I don't know, I think it's like sort of a random roll. It's like mostly static, but sort of one perk that's random. I can't remember what the thing.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm not too sure if that's purely what it is. I don't know. I mean, speculation wise, I thought it was going to be a case of, oh, something for better handling or something for better range or reload speed, which is always going to be pain for me every time I have to reload a weapon in the middle of a fight. That's why I love Bad Juju. You practically never have to reload for that.
Bad Juju is forever my favourite exotic. Also, speaking of exotics and all that, what I'm curious to hear from you two is, what did you think of the weapon types in Destiny 2 and the change to the way, obviously, we now have a kinetic, energy, and power weapon? Because I think that'd be quite interesting to get your thoughts. Because I'll be honest, I love it. SMGs are great, but I did notice that elemental weapons kind of have the edge.
I would say energy weapons by default would always have the edge just because it's a case of it's not like the kinetic weapons are going to deal slightly better damage. I mean, personally for me, if I got a chance to balance the game, it would be a case of kinetic weapons deal a normal amount of damage, but a energy weapon will deal about 80%. But if it's attacking the right energy, immediately it just bumps it to 125 or 150.
Yeah, I mean the whole purpose of energy weapons is obviously to focus shields more so. I mean, I quite like that. Like, I don't have a problem with the way they're balanced. But I feel like the energy weapons are cooler by default. But I like the fact that I can carry 2 hand cannons, 2 SMGs, or a hand cannon, an SMG, a pulse rifle, an auto rifle, and then switch over when I get the power ammo to just badass sniper rifle or a grenade launcher.
The only good exotic weapon, in my opinion, was the Warlock one, not because I'm Warlock Master Race, but there's a case of the Hunter's hand cannon. That basically was the kinetic hand cannon, which had explosive rounds on it. And honestly, the Firefly like perk wasn't that big a deal. Whereas in well, at least compared to Destiny 1, it was a case of I just made this entire thing go into a massive ball of fire. Whereas now it's like, poof, okay, I just did a bit of AoE, not much else. And I'm like, okay, and then you got, was it Payday or Business? And that one is like, okay, so it's a minigun like full auto rifle, and the ability is that it has it speeds up the fire rate the longer you hold it down, and it automatically automatically loads ammo into the magazine. Brilliant. Ammo didn't drop that often, to the point that I actively ran out of power and energy weapons more times in the strike than I would care to admit.
Yeah, I had issues where I ran out of ammo quite a lot. But I have to agree with you as well. My favourite exotic out of the 3 we got to play with was the Warlock one, which I believe was an SMG. I found that the exotic hand cannon, as cool as it was, I felt like it did less damage than the bog standard hand cannon. And the one the Titan got, the freaking minigun, and it just wasn't for me. Like, it's cool and I like the perks, just didn't sit with how I like to play. Like sometimes a gun just doesn't click with you.
The SMG is a tad overpowered because I unlocked all 3 character classes on the PS1 and the Xbox One, so I had a chance to play with it twice. And it was like, first time, I thought, holy crap, I can't control this SMG at all. But then when I went onto the Xbox, I was like, okay, actually, it's not too bad, because it turned out I didn't up my sensitivity up to max. So I thought, okay, I have more control over this. And then when the Cabal just hit me with their bullet, I was like, hold on, you're telling me the ability on the SMG just procced? Well, I might as well hold down fire and just kill everything. You don't consume ammo. So when you're in the courtyard, in the plaza for Zavala, I never let go of the fire button. And the entire time, the arc runner ability would just proc. So I should have recorded it, but it was a case of the entire section never let go of the fire button at all, and I just mowed through all the Cabal. And every time they shot me, it just re-procced it if by chance it did run out, which I don't think it did, but it was pretty insane. So I just melted through the Cabal region as they just kept on flying towards me.
But you do feel like a bit of a badass, but no, that is a tad overpowered.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? It also makes it so that you take less arc damage as well once it's procced, but because I didn't know this, but if you went into the Vex mill in the strike, that would actually proc it as well. So, because I was watching a few people play, and it was a case of they would actively go into the Vex Milk, proc the Arc Runner, and they would just go ham at the boss at Protheon, and they would not let up, pretty much, apart from the fact that they were about to die. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of work to be done with the balancing before the game comes out. I mean, for me personally, having spent 3 years on PS4, I'm going to be jumping to PC simply because for me, an FPS should be on PC. My friend's going to be getting it on PC, so it's the right move for me. But the PC beta will be the deciding factor for me in how I feel about all the classes and the guns, because I'll be able to play it with a keyboard and mouse, which I'm more used to, and really decide sort of how this is going to work out. And although PC obviously will have the option to change the FOV, I actually felt a bit like the FOV in the beta on the PS4 was a bit smaller than the Destiny 1 FOV. That or weapons, some of the sizing would just felt a bit different, and it just sort of took me a while to get used to it. But that's a minor thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're talking about, because I definitely thought that the Titan exotic was a bit bulky for what it looked like. But I mean, the bog standard auto rifle for the energy and the kinetic, I thought those look about right. It's just that maybe they look a little bit longer. Because I've watched a GDC by Bungie, and it was a case of the way they've got it, their camera made is so that it has two perspectives. One is where it's purely on the first person aspect, actual your arms and your gun, and then they've got another camera that just takes in the surroundings basically. So then that way they can easily adjust your FOV very easily and on the fly without affecting your actual perception of your hands and guns. So it's very possible that they might tweak the arms. I don't know, I feel like they've almost compacted the UI a bit. So that might also be it. Yeah, it's a bit, if I really wanted to read into their UI design, I probably could, but it just feels like they're probably going to change it up again because I know they did. And
the UI is a lot more polished now for sure.
Oh, actually, speaking of UI, did you feel that the health regen was way too slow?
Honestly, I can't remember at this point.
Karma, what did you think?
The health was a bit low. The regen was a bit low, but I feel like that's more to do with the armor that we had. Because I know on my Warlock, wasn't there a thing for recovery?
Yes, the Warlock armor made it so that you maxed out on recovery.
Yeah, and even still with full recovery, like maxed out recovery, it was still really slow compared to Destiny 1. Even with the healing rift as well, it's still pretty slow.
Yeah, I mean, that was my only gripe with the hunters, and that was with the melee from the Archstrider, because it was a case of every time I would kill something, I would notice quite a bit of lag between me killing it and me regaining my health. It was like, and something can kill me within this fraction of a second, and something will hit me, and I'm just going to get shut down immediately, which is really annoying. And one thing I did notice was the fact that you don't have that beeping noise anymore. When you got hit, you didn't get that beep, 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 and then it just slowly wind down again. I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed this or if this was me. I probably should have captured footage comparing the two, but that was the one thing that took away for the most. It was a case of I know they definitely have slowed down or increased the time between you regaining your health. At the same time, they probably made it so that there isn't as much feedback for you regaining your health.
There was a really clear audio feedback as to like when you needed to take cover and such.
Yeah, they also removed the feedback for when you get a kill. It used to make a little sound. I can't really say the sound, but it used to make a sound. But it doesn't anymore.
Yeah, that is one thing I'm probably going to miss. I mean, that's a relatively easy thing to add in. That could also be that the Bungie post made by Deej was a case of, yeah, the build you have is like months old, and we've made lots of changes into it, and all of the feedback you've been saying is currently is evidence to what we thought at the time.
Yeah, I think it was the build from the reveal event.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, again, even the beta that came out, it's months old. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, I'm still super, super hyped for Destiny 2, and like, I can't wait. I'm annoyed I've got to wait a few extra weeks to play it on PC, but I'll live.
They actually say when the PC is dropping, or at least or specs even.
Yeah, they actually just announced the minimum requirement along with the beta dates. The beta dates sort of like second to last, if not last week of August, and the actual release, I believe, is about 5 to 6 weeks after the console release, which is interesting because the raid obviously won't be available on day one, as with tradition with any release of Destiny. But the thing I'm curious is, are they gonna keep the raid locked on console until the PC version's out, or are they gonna lock it on console, then immediately unlock it on PC? Like, I'm curious how the first 2-3 months of Destiny 2's release are gonna be, because I think once the PC version's out and we get over the initial sort of hotfix period, the two console and PC will be in sync. But I'm curious to see how the first couple of weeks go with the differences.
An interesting thing to point out. Like I said, I never went raiding until near the end of Destiny 1's life cycle. So, will people be able to even get to light level in time? Because I remember people saying, we can't even complete Vault of Glass yet because we're not high enough level. We need to spend a few more days or weeks grinding out just to get that extra level to make it possible.
We may never know at this rate. But no, it's just a weird one because again, like there was that issue, and obviously they usually give time to get up to the max light level to take on the raids, but I do wonder how that's going to be this time.
I don't think they'll make console players wait a few weeks. I feel like it'd be unfair to console players, but it would also be unfair to PC players to have that content spoiled. I don't see I have no idea how they're going to handle that.
Exactly. That's the thing, is no matter what they do, one community is going to lose out. But then if they're going to do like live events and live weekends, they might be able to give us enough content to keep people going up until that. But who knows? That's what I mostly want to know at this point. Like, I'm gonna buy Destiny 2, I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna love it regardless. But what I want to know is, what are you gonna do between launch of the console to the PC launch, and then what are you doing for the 2 months after that until, I'm gonna guess, around November, December time, the first DLC will drop. That's all I'm interested in, is what is gonna happen over those first few months.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the first DLC was dropping in December time, and then the second one, because the first one's going to be it's not going to be Rasputin. It's going to be Charles. It's going to be Osiris. It's the first one, and then you got Rasputin. And I've heard Rasputin's going to be coming out in 2018.
I can't remember the exact dates, but yeah, it's the first one's Osiris, the second one's Rasputin. And I know a big thing about Destiny 2 and the new engine and the new tech that they're using is that they will be able to drop content quicker, be it live events, free updates, and DLC. That's what I want to know. But that's what they're keeping quiet about. It's like I want to know. I want to know what year 4, because I'm treating Destiny 2's release as year 4. I want to know what year 4 is going to be altogether, because year 1 of Destiny was, by all accounts, quite a bit of a shambles. The DLCs were kind of lackluster. They had good moments, but so it'd be curious to see how they try to redeem themselves over that. Because to give a comparison, the Division in its second year now is doing all right in terms of keeping the content rolling and giving us things to do, and it's quite nice in that regard. But besides, like, Age of Triumph and the other seasonal events, Destiny didn't really have that much. I mean, I'm not asking for an event every week. But if I can have something on a bit of a rolling cycle before the new year, that would be great.
Personally, for me, as a community, we should know how often you're going to be dropping in content. Is it going to be a case of, because as much as they want to keep the cards hidden and they want to be able to say, oh, we've still got these to show you, but we're going to play them out later on, considering how terrible the content pipeline was for Destiny 1 and the content around that happened quite often, which luckily I was able to stave off just because huzzah for education kicking in and telling you to study, so didn't get much time playing games, for better or for worse. But it was a case of, okay, there's content around here, what am I supposed to do? I guess I can just run the weekly stuff, like weekly gauntlet. So, because they did have, what was it, Prison of Elders, that was fun. But once Taken King hit, it was like, what's the point of Prison of Elders now? I mean, it's not even a challenge. That's the the one thing I love about Rise of Iron is the bloody Archon's Forge. Every time you get a Seaver Cache, and no matter no matter how many people there are with you, you will always have an element of challenging it. Even, I think I had 7 people in the Archon's Forge ones, and the ads themselves were fine. But the minute the boss came in, the perfected Fallen came in, all hell broke loose. Like, we were dying left, right, and centre, struggling to beat it.
See, I had some of my fondest memories are the Arcane's Forge. So how they take those moments and put that style of content into Destiny 2 will be the thing. If we can have that weekly reset, the weekly strike, the weekly nightfall, etc., that will do me just fine. Get that in early. Let's have that, maybe the first month, let's just say hypothetically, you have a month of the generic launch and the hot fixing, and then they go, okay, now we're going to give you the weekly reset, and then a few, 2 weeks later, they're like, okay, now have the raid. Even if the weekly reset is just jump in this playlist, get some extra loot, sorted, it gives you that something to do. But if they can bring that in sooner rather than later, then that would be lovely. Please, Bungie.
So I'm just thinking about content as it's a case of what can they do? I mean, I would love for them to be able to jump in and just go, okay, the Cabal have taken everything, you're going to do not strikes, but you're going to do raids on like Cabal ships. That would be incredible. I mean, we know the internal layout, but imagine going on to Gary's ship and you just go in there and just go, right, I'm taking your loot cache now. Give me that. Give me some extra loot.
Oh, that'd be sick.
It makes sense. I mean, XCOM went that way with its narrative. It was a case of, the humanity lost. Well, you're the thing that's going to bring it back. You're going to have to play dirty to get to win.
Guerrilla style warfare, Destiny style.
I don't see how else you're going to be able to lore-wise fit it in, but who knows? Do you have any other thoughts?
What about you, Karma? What sort of content would you want to see come into Destiny 2 sort of to keep you on that little weekly or bi-weekly cycle?
Well, for PvP, they definitely need more modes with better rewards like Destiny 1. It was sort of your 2 matches a week, get your treasure boxes thing, silver treasures, whatever they call them now. And then the Nightfall was really boring. Well, not boring, but it's sort of... I'm hoping that for the Nightfall, they could make a sort of strike that's exclusive to the Nightfall and is like just like risking an area just for the Nightfall every week. Like even just some surprising new stuff. Like I just want some sort of content. Like the content drought in Taken King was so boring. And even Rise of Iron now, I only come back like 2 hours every weekend. It's just so boring now, and they just need something that brings me back in every week. And hopefully, I'm hoping that they do have something, just some sort of new game feature. I don't know, like a sort of in Rise of Iron, the weekly raids. That was fun, doing all the challenges every week, but that got boring fast. The Nightfall, boring fast. Not House of Wolves, Prison Builders, that got really boring really fast. I know this sounds really negative, but it's just sort of, it just gets boring week after week. That's why I'm hoping the Lost Sectors are gonna provide more content. Like if they can add Lost Sectors in really quickly, we could get new weekly reset where it's a Lost Sector every week, or a new quest every week, or just something new every week that isn't the same repetitive stuff.
That makes sense. I know with one of the few IGN first videos, they actually said that that Cade is gonna be selling you treasure maps, I think it was, and there'll be heroic modifiers to make things more challenging. So it would definitely be interesting to know if you can actually fail the challenges and that's it. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here just because it's probably going to be extending about an hour now, and I don't want to have to think about the editing for this.
I think we've covered quite a lot, and I think until we can get more details from Bungie with what their plans are, I think we will just be going around in circles. But it sounds like the general feeling here is that we're all kind of looking forward to it. We just want them to give us an improvement.
Well, that's been the Destiny 2 beta GrinPressions. I've been your host, Owen, joined with Nikolai and Karma.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Bye.